Hey guys, Grandpa John coming at you with another Awaken Chaos Era video. So today's video, what we're going to be talking about is going to be all about the guild boss and a couple things I've kind of noticed about the guild boss, and just now starting to really deep dive into understanding the mechanics of the guild boss and how to really rack up that major damage that we're looking for. Alright, so today's video, like I said, we're going to be talking about the guild boss. Now, for those of you who are not aware of this, once you hit a certain level in the beginning of the game, you can then join a guild. As you see here, I am the co-leader of the Elite guild. This is myself and my good friend Chosen. We run this guild, and we've been having a lot of fun. We also like to challenge ourselves with trying to figure out who can do the most damage. Currently, I am ranked second with my teammate, who's at the top of the leaderboard. It was interesting because I don't really know a whole lot about the guild boss. I started off doing the guild boss, so quick background, a little caveat. I came from a game like Raid Shadow Legends where clan boss was the most important thing to get rewards on immediately, and it was a set finite strategy to get to certain levels to get certain rewards. What I'm noticing on this guild boss is there's a couple of strategies, and we're going to talk about them today with this fire one, but the rewards are kind of hit and miss. Now, some of the rewards are very nice, like this guild EXP is good to have. So is the guild tokens, and if you did not know this or were not aware of this, but you can actually exchange some of those in the guild vault here. So you can use those tokens and exchange them for pieces of gear, 5-star pumpkins, special charms, even in summoning shards. Now, I do recommend, I've talked about this before, is I don't recommend you spending these on like the characters. Like, you know, I wouldn't spend these on Yolanda to get to duplicate Yolanda. You'll need 100 of these to completely get her. It's going to take you a bit. It's going to take you a little bit. But some of the gear that's in here is pretty decent. Like, this isn't the first time I've seen a crit damage ring in there. The health pendant here. This isn't a great one because it's, you know, as you see here, it's 2 flat stats. But I have seen good gear in here, and there's usually good rings and amulets, which is the most sought after pieces of gear. But that is very helpful, and you do get that by scaling up with your battles on the guild boss. So it's definitely something you want to kind of keep in mind. The other thing to keep in mind is the rewards that you get back. As you see here, you can get legendary gear, and chances are you're going to. It's just a matter of if it's going to be 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, or even 6-star gear. As you get up to the higher chest levels, you do get better rewards. So as I'm kind of understanding this and kind of putting everything together, I'm quickly realizing that, hey, it's probably okay to start prioritizing doing your guild boss because you are getting some decent rewards. That's why when I made my video the other day, I was talking about, hey, here's your difference between your campaign farmers and your dungeon farmers. But when you saw my account, I had a lot of characters that did not fall in my category. And that's because those are going to be specialty characters that go into this guild boss. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's talk about my guild boss team that I am currently using, how it works, and why I chose them. And we're going to give you guys a few ideas as to what you can use on your own account to help progress you in the guild boss and slowly make the progress. So starting off here, let's talk about this. I have Nathalia, Brand, William, and Lydia currently in this comp. This is going to be only for the fire guild boss. Boss does rotate. And you definitely want to keep that in mind because you're going to need 3 independent teams to do this progression, so to speak, and getting the damage up on the guild boss. Like, for example, my fire guild boss team, my wood guild boss team is nothing like this. So it's completely different, but it's got the same concept. So let's talk about the concept here. In this lineup, I have Nathalia is in a cursed set. So if we look at Nathalia, she's in a cursed set of gear, which is pretty normal. I mean, most people keep her in cursed set in the beginning. She's in a cursed set with warrior here, so she does a lot of damage. As you can see here are her stats in case you're interested on what her stats are. She does quite a bit of damage, but she is in warrior set, not guard set, because I don't have a good guard set. So that tells me that to get her to scale up more damage, with her passive ability that adds 10% damage for each additional buff, I need to bring some characters that'll do a few buffs, right? So that led me to Brand. Now, the reason why that led me to Brand is these fights in the guild boss, they aren't something that you just go in there and you hit go and you're done. So the thing with the guild boss is every single turn, he will ramp up the amount of damage that he's gonna do on your characters. It's not going to be a forever the same amount of damage each time, but it's going to go exponentially. So what this means is you cannot have long drawn out fights of healing and defense and whatnot. You can try those and they do work. Like I've seen Hackerin builds, I've seen Brand, Hackerin, and a couple others that actually are just straight tanky teams. And what happens is they make it, like 10 or 12 rounds, and then they start to fall off. Well, the biggest thing with Guild Boss that I noticed is you need to really scale those abilities fast. You need to scale that damage fast. So with that being said, I brought in Brand in here, and the reason why I brought in Brand is because, well, one, he's one of the best support units in my opinion. But when you bring in Brand, what this gives you is his A3 here is a defense up 2, an attack up 2. Okay, I have him ascended, so I get the 10% shield the shield that's worth 10% of his character's max health. This taunt doesn't do you any good. You don't taunt the guild boss, it doesn't really help you any. But the attack down, this is very, very helpful because every time the guild boss attacks you, he's going to counterattack and do an attack down. Now, this also means every time he attacks individual characters that he procs off a lot, right? Which really helps you scale the damage. Notice that on my particular Brand here, I have focus all the way up to 74%. Now, mind you, my health was a lot higher. I was at about 2,500 health beforehand when running it, but I needed to change him out a little bit because I needed him to go faster. And I needed his focus to be up a little higher because I was using him in the hard void tower. And that was kind of something I just had to do to really get him to work and be more viable. So now he is faster than Nathalia. But the key to keep that, and the key to remember here is Brand 1, he procs his shield at the start of the round. Nathalia needs that to start scaling up with her damage, as well as to unlock her passive ability, which gives her another 2 abilities, which then gives her another 20% damage. Brand also is going to give you defense up 2 and attack up 2, which is going to then stack you all the way up to 5 buffs before Nathalia goes, allowing Nathalia to do a lot more damage. And keep in mind, she does have a curse set on, so then she can do a curse proc, which will then allow her to do another amount of damage. We'll show the run when we get done talking about the team, and you can kind of see what I'm talking about because you'll notice that Nathalia's damage just starts immediately scaling up just because we brought in a Brand who gives her 3 buffs on top of the 2 buffs she's going to get from herself. Next we have is William. Now, William is there for a very distinct reason. He is there for his passive ability, and 2, his counterattack. His defense down also helps and definitely is not something to shy away from. But his passive ability here, which is the basic abilities of all team members deal 60% more damage, is like astronomically more damage done than if this wasn't here. The other thing is he has this defensive down. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage here, but the defensive down really does help. It helps scale that damage astronomically. So it's definitely something to keep in mind. When you're trying to build a team around the guild boss and you don't know what you're doing or how to do the damage, keep in mind what kind of a support unit you really want to bring in there and what they're going to bring to the table. In this case, William is bringing to the table the defensive down. He's bringing to the table the damage up. His A1 is also amazing because that's the joint attack. And you know what? Let's just keep bragging him up a little bit. His A2 here, the counterattack for the whole team and the defense up 2 is amazing. So when they counterattack, they do the A1 for Nathalia. That is her A1 that adds a buff. On top of the defense up 2, which you could additionally put on Nathalia if it has worn off from Brand. But the big thing to note is that, yes, it is another buff. And once again, I have him built to where his speed is 139 and my Nathalia's speed is a little slower. Let's go look at my Nathalia's speed real quick. I believe she's just under 139, if I remember correctly. Yeah, she's at 122, which is basically right where I want her because she's going to go last really in the rotation. So this is then going to allow William sometimes to have his counterattack proc, so to speak. So this now gives Nathalia 6 buffs to work with. Last but not least is going to be Lydia. And you know what? This Lydia, this is where this could really, you can really switch out who you have in the lineup and what you're picking here. But one other thing let's talk about is, so Lydia is in here because one, Lydia does quite a bit of damage. Her ability here, the deal 200% damage to an enemy if this lands a critical strike. Damage ignores 50% of defense. That can scale super high because we're ignoring defense. 200% damage is pretty on par for an ultimate ability. Also, if she dodges, because she does have this amazing dodge here, which is what really sets Lydia apart from most other characters. She then can do a counterattack. The counterattack will do 200% damage if this ability is a critical strike. Damage ignores 50% of damage. So it's literally, she can do her ultimate, and then she can dodge an attack and do her ultimate again, essentially is what this amounts to. So it's very, very helpful. And then she also has the accuracy down here. Once again, that does help a little bit with getting deflects out of the guild boss, but it's not the end of the world. A character that I could easily replace that with would be like Andre. He's a great single target damage dealer. There's a couple other characters as well that would be decent. Like Molhex would be another very good one to bring in. I'm spacing out on, there's I think one other option too that I'm totally spacing right now. I want to say it's Jonathan, but I haven't tested it yet, so don't quote me on that. I'm going to build Jonathan probably pretty soon for the next rotation, and I want to try him out in place of Lydia here in this team. But the other thing to note here is her speed. Once again, she is going to be going after Brand. So Brand is 140 or 161, I think. So Lydia is going to have the attack up buff on her that Brand puts on. So that means she's going to do extra damage. So that's something to keep in mind, is to keep bringing all the synergy together for the guild boss to really just hone everything in. So that way everyone's going to do the most amount of damage they possibly can. And then the other thing also to note here, as you will see here from their symbols, right? Blue icons here are symbolizing that they are water units. Brand is the only off unit. That means Brand will always be targeted by the guild boss when he does his single target attacks. Now, the last thing that we're going to talk about is going to be the spells, and it's kind of a no-brainer in my opinion, but we'll talk about it a little bit. And the thing is, so we have William. He's going to do defensive down for us. So by bringing in this defensive down, it would be wasted. Now, we have Shield of Mercy on there because obviously we want whoever is getting targeted to last longer. Well, in this case, we know it's always going to be Brand. So Shield of Mercy should hopefully always go on Brand. But that's where it gets a little difficult. If you auto, it does not always go on Brand. If you manual, it takes forever, and then it can go on Brand. I do not manual comps. I don't like them. If you have to manually comp, in my opinion, it's not successful. But the Guy's Renewal is what really comes into play here as well, because on top of the Shield of Mercy and Guy's Renewal, that can keep Brand up higher and higher and higher, because as he's taking all these single attacks, you want him to outlast all the AoE attacks that go on the DPS units. Ideally, you want your single target to survive longer than your DPS units, and if they have done that, then you have succeeded at building them correctly, because it's really hard to build an entire team that does the amount of damage you want, as well as scales with their HP correctly, to where they don't all die from an AoE attack versus just a single attacks and get picked off one by one. All right, with all that being said, let's go ahead and let's get into a battle and kind of test out, see what happens as far as damage goes. Now, like I said here, I do not manual, I do not enjoy it. I'll point out a couple of areas where manualing would have been beneficial, but as you'll see with the amount of damage that we're going to do, it's not necessarily the thing that we have to do to put out the damage that we really want to see, right? So as you see here, we have Brand put up his ability here. William did the defensive down. We have Nathalia is going. She got all of her buffs here. Now, she only got 4 buffs here, which is okay, but that's because we have not gotten the counterattack yet from William. There we go. Now there's the counterattack. Now notice she has her 5 buffs. So now Nathalia will do even more damage. Granted, yes, it is on the A1, but eventually this will come into a rotational sync where it'll be okay. And as you see, you can see the counter here at the top right or top left here underneath the bar. So this is going to be the second attack that the second round, so to speak, for the boss. And you can literally keep track of that just by this ×3, ×2, times whatever. But notice that the attack up or attack down, sorry, is staying on there. The accuracy down is staying on there. We can't do anything about the machine booster here. And like I said, the taunt does you no good because of this control immunity. But the boss has only targeted Brand so far, and that's because he's the only off affinity, or sorry, off element in the composition, and the other 3 are strong element to him. So naturally, he's going to go with the one that is not necessarily the weak element, but the weaker out of the 4 possibilities. The shield here is what's really holding us together from Brand. Now, really, his shield could go up a little bit more, and that would help us. As you saw there on the, what was that, the 5th wave here, it actually broke the shield. So at wave 5, we're at the point where we're breaking the shield that Brand is putting up, which then allows our characters to take actual damage and lose HP. Now, one other thing to note is each character is losing a little bit of HP because the fire guild boss has an ability that then reflects some of his damage towards the attacker. Now that dodge there is super impactful. Once we get those dodges there, you see the counterattack that went up here. That also means that Lydia didn't take any damage. Currently, she is one of the squishier characters, but Nathalia is actually squishier. So if we're going to lose one of the DPS, I would honestly like to prefer to lose Nathalia because she doesn't have the ability to dodge incoming damage. But as you see there, with the amount of buffs that she's stacking up here, right, guys, she was at 8 buffs in that hit. It did a lot of damage, and we'll look at the damage breakdown after this run, and that way you have a lot better idea. But we are about 6 rounds into this battle, and we're at 208,000 damage. That's a significant amount of damage. That's not, it's not something to wag your finger about. This could go up a lot more, depending on how I were to build these characters. Honestly, we could build William and make him do just a little bit more damage because he does have that potential with that joint attack and his AoE on his A3. But I feel like he's just not the character that you want to do this with because you don't want to dedicate your William just to your guild boss. But it is a possibility nonetheless. But we're not going to focus on it because, well, we use William in a lot of different places, and I really need him to be more sustained than damage dealer. All right. And there's Nathalia going with her ultimate. That was with 6 buffs. That did a massive amount of damage for us. The only thing I'm not liking in this composition is the defensive down that William does put up. It's not constantly up. Now, if I were to manual this, I would probably be at about another 100,000 damage more, I would believe, because I would be able to maintain the defensive down a little bit better for when we have ultimates up from Nathalia and when we have ultimate up from Lydia. But unfortunately, we don't really have, I shouldn't say unfortunately. I am not the type of person where I'm going to manual guild boss comps. This is going to be an auto walk away and be done. Actually, most of the time, guys, I don't even watch these. I'm watching it right now for you because of the sake of this video, and I wanted to really commentate and break down exactly what you're seeing here as we're doing more damage. But you did notice there, so the Brand finally did fail here, and so that means we failed our single target check. He fell over. Notice also so did Lydia. That is because of the characters or the guild boss's passive ability, which then allows him to do a little bit of damage back to the attacker. And that's what made him fall over. Literally, we just missed a proc for our heal, Guy's Renewal, and did not do as much healing as we really wanted it to. But 323,000 damage is still pretty decent. It got us up to chest 24. Unfortunately, that does not get a 6-star gear. I think you gotta get up to chest 26 to get that 6-star gear. I've hit that pretty consistently, but I did rebuild my Brand for the Void Tower today, so I think that's what I just saw as far as why this did not succeed as much. And that was because the shield on everybody was a lot less than what it usually is. But let's go ahead and look at the battle report. Notice that Nathalia did a massive amount of damage because she had all those buffs up. You saw all the buffs as we were doing the battle. 168,000 damage. That's definitely not something to shake your finger at here. Lydia did 131,000 damage. Pretty notable as well. Brand, our boy Brand, he didn't really do a whole lot with that 14k, neither did William. But that's okay, because they weren't there to do the damage. They were there to be the support units, to do the defensive down, to do the attack down, and also to do all the buffing for Nathalia to really scale her damage, as well as Lydia to scale her damage with the attack up too. That's going to be it for the video, guys. This is one comp for the guild boss, but this is also a way for me to kind of break down exactly what I'm looking for, what I'm seeing, and how I am progressing in the guild boss and why. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that helped you wrap your head around what to be doing in the game a little bit more if you want to really pursue the guild boss. And yeah, can't wait to see you guys in the next one. Have a good rest of your day. Peace.